Hi, my name is Renata and welcome to my channel. For today I have prepared something a bit different, a little bit playing with watercolors and playing with my simple graphite pencils. It was a bit of an experiment for me, but I hope you will like it and check it out. Once again, I will be working in a perfect size journal from Art by Marlene. And this time I will first stamp a focal image, and it comes from the Dream House stamp set. For stamping I will use a VersaFine ink in Onyx Black color, as this is a pigment ink, so once it's dry it won't be activated with water. This time this was an important consideration for me, as I planned to use a lot of watercolors for my background. The watercolor set that I am using for this project is from the latest release from Studio Light and Art by Marlene, and I will use it with Art by Marlene watercolor brushes. As you might have noticed, I first sprayed some water on my watercolor pen because I wanted the pigment to start activating. And now bit by bit I will start applying the paint. For this project I decided to use just a couple of shades, yellow, orange, pink and blue, as I think all these colors go really well together. And to be honest, this time I was applying the paints randomly, actually just enjoying the process. When doing something like this, you just have to be aware of color wheel and which colors go well together. Otherwise, while the watercolors flow into each other, they might create some brownish shades that you might not like. In this case, I was doing a wet on dry technique, which means I was applying wet watercolors on a dry paper, but I think this could be also really nice if you did wet on wet technique, which means you first apply the water over your paper and then you applied watercolors over the wet surfaces, which would make them flow more freely and blend better. Of course, wet on dry technique gives you more control, but then it just depends on what kind of effect are you going for. Sometimes when working with watercolors, you can notice that the colors become a bit more dull when drying. Same effect that you might have noticed when working with your distress oxides. But I must say I was really pleasantly surprised with the vibrancy of this particular Art by Marlene and Studio Light watercolor palette. But still, later on, I was reinforcing some colors and adding a second layer, as you can see it here, where I was adding a second layer on the yellow color, but only towards the edges, as I still wanted to have some variations in the color. Anyway, if you are curious about this watercolor palette, I have an unboxing video where I also swatch this whole palette, and I will leave you the link at the end of this video. But also I will leave you the link in the product list in the description box down below. Now for a minute I will let you enjoy the music and watch my coloring process. adding a couple of more layers, splatters and drying my project, I decided to play a bit with some drawing. For drawing I am using graphite pencils, and mine are from Faber-Castell, but honestly you can choose whatever you have at hand. To be honest, at this point I didn't have any particular idea of the shape or form I was going for. I was just following some outlines that have been made by watercolor. This is all just me having fun with my supplies, experimenting and playing around. Sometimes when I get into stuff like this, I lose the track of time. So I think all this little doodling and drawing process for me lasted maybe for even an hour. I don't know. So I won't show you a whole drawing process, I will just show you a lower portion a bit. I don't want to get you bored. Anyway, here, this white thingy which I'm holding in my hand, it's a paper stump or paper pencil, and it is used for blending. If you watch some of my previous videos, you know that sometimes I use odorless mineral spirit for blending, but this time I didn't use it, it was just dry brushing. Also, this is very much sped up process because stuff like this, adding a little bit of shadows, really takes time and patience too. When forming shadows on stuff like this, I like to go with lighter colored pencils. I think I'm working here with the B graphite pencil. So for shadows it actually just takes a lot of layering, blending. Though for the edges of the objects I did add a darker shade. I think I went with the 4B or 2B graphite pencil. Anyway, as I said, this whole thing lasted forever, so let's move to adding some highlights. For adding highlights, I was working with Caran d'Ache Luminescence pencil in white color. I really hoped I pronounced that well. But of course you have options for whatever you have at hand. You can use gel pen, acrylic pen in white color, or pastel, whatever you have at hand really. So after finishing my background, I wanted to color the houses, but I didn't want them to steal the attention from my background, which I worked so hard on. So I wanted the colors not to be too colorful. So only stronger color that I chose was red for the roofs, and for the building itself I chose to work mostly with some neutral tones and shades. I already showed you this super long process of my background and shading those little shapes, so I won't bore you showing you the whole process of the coloring. I will just show you a little glimpse into the whole process. Now that the houses were done as well, I just wanted to stamp a sentiment, and the one I used comes also from the same stamp set as the houses. And I use Studio Light stamp press just to be really sure that I will get a good impression and not ruin my work so far. Anyway, now as the last little finishing touch, last detail, I wanted to add some shine to my shapes. So I am using Art by Marlene Special Effect Glamour Glitter in diamond color, and I am smudging it with my finger. Anyway, that is all for this project. But if you want to see me swatching this watercolor set that I mentioned at the start, or see another fun technique with watercolors, I will leave the link for this video at the end. Thank you for watching. Bye!